The Caro-Kann Defense is a favorite of GothamChess as well as Anatoly Karpov, and in today's video, you're going to quickly learn how to play this chess opening. This is really an introductory video, in which case we're covering the 5 most popular options that white has against the Caro-Kann and how we as black are going to respond against it. Now, the Caro-Kann itself is a response against the move e4, in which case we're not playing d5 right away, which would be the Scandinavian defense, in which case the queen defends the pawn, but we're playing this move of c6, looking to help us prepare the move of d5. And sure, in some games you might see knight f3 or knight c3 or some other moves, but most of the time you're going to see this move of pawn to d4. And yeah, I mean, in that case, we can play d5. Notice how we have a pawn supporting d5. And unlike the French defense, in which case we play the move of e6, our bishop is able to get active in this game. Now, the most popular move in online chess is the move of e5 with the advanced variation. There's some interesting options that you have available here. One of them is bishop f5. Okay, a lot of top players, grandmaster players, like going with bishop f5. I personally cannot stand it. I think the tall variation with h4 is a little bit annoying to play against. Notice, by the way, if we play something like e6, we're just losing. g4, our bishop is trapped. I don't care if you're going to e4 or g6 first. In either case, your bishop is going to get trapped. Your bishop here simply has nowhere to go. And yeah, I mean, really, this is resignable for the black side. And going back, if we do know what to do against that, and we play h5, at any point in time, white can trade off for our bishop whenever they want to. We play a move like e6, bishop g5 happens. It just feels like white has a little bit of an edge in development, activity, and overall play. But that's just my opinion on it, right? A lot of players like this kind of game, and if you do, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I personally, against the move e5, have become very fond of this move c5, going into the Botvinnik-Carls defense, looking to put pressure on d4, and this pawn on d4 is our big target now. Now, sure, we did use 2 moves, right? Playing c6 and then c5, but the upside of this is that, sure, we're not playing a French defense, in which case we'd have this same exact position with the pawn on e6, but do we want the pawn on e6? I would argue no, right? At least if you want to activate your light-scored bishop. So in this case, white can take, in that case, the engine move is e6, in which case we're looking to immediately attack that pawn on c5, and this is a close to equal game for black. Of course, from a human perspective, we play the Caro-Kann, now we're locking on our bishop, so I think a lot of players here, instead of e6, prefer the move of knight c6, and if knight f3, okay, let's pin that knight, right, and then at some point try to play e6. I mean, if bishop e5 pinning our knight, we can play queen a5 with check, e6 here. If you want to try to defend your pawn, knight e7. A move like knight g6 could come on the way here, as we have a new target on e5 since that pawn captured on c5. And that's the thing, right? Anytime white takes on c5, e5 is permanently weaker. So that's something to keep in mind. And if something like c3, white has a very nice long pawn chain here, but this is really the target that we're going after. Sometimes b2 as well, but d4 is our main target. In this case, we can play knight c6, add more pressure. The moment you see knight f3, don't play e6, right? Play bishop g4, and then the move of pawn to e6. Now you have a very active bishop. It feels like a French defense, but honestly a better one because our bishop is more active. We don't have that French bishop on c8. And let's say we see castling kingside, you can play knight g e7. This knight, depending on how white plays this knight can come to f5, putting pressure on d4. If white takes, this knight might want to come to g6, putting pressure on e5, right? As long as this pawn's on d4, e5 is not weak. But the second this pawn captures, e5 doesn't have a pawn defending it, and pawns are the best defenders in chess. If we see a move like h3, and by the way, I'm showing you all the most popular moves from white in online chess. These are all the most popular moves. We can take on f3, capture on d4, queen b6. We're just clearly better here, y'all. We're clearly better. If you look at the most popular moves in online chess against the Caro-Kann, it will lead you here, and black's better. We're simply going to win this pawn on d4, unless, of course, you play a move like bishop e3, but then you hang b2. That's great for us. So the Botvinnik-Carls defense, you see e5, you play c5. That can get you great results if you know what to do. Remember, play c5, put more and more pressure on d4, and try to get your bishop out before you play the move of pawn to e6, and you'll be in good shape. The second most popular move is capturing on d5 with the exchange variation. Against that, we're going to capture back. Now, there is this move of pawn to c4 that can be played. I would say in this case, you can play a move like knight f6 and just keep trying to naturally develop your pieces. However, going back, I mean, knight f3 is the most popular move in online chess, and in that case, we're still going to develop. We're simply looking to develop our pieces very quickly. Knight c6, we can pin that knight. We can play e6. Again, once we do pin that knight, play a move here like bishop d6. Our bishop on g4 is active. Our bishop on d6 is active because it's on the opposite color of our pawns, and that's great for us. If h3, we can drop our bishop back. We're not going to take that knight right now. We like the tension that we have towards that knight, towards that bishop, towards that queen, so we don't want to trade there. And if white ever wants to play g4, go ahead. You're pushing pawns in front of your king. Not a great idea. Bishop e3. Let's play knight ge7. Okay, knight ge7. You know, there's a lot of things that can take place here. We can look towards castling. A move like rook c8, great semi-open file for that rook. Queen b6 is still a good move to throw in there, putting pressure on d4, putting pressure on b2. And yeah, I mean, the engine here just has a clear advantage to black. Going back to d5, the third most popular move, knight c3. In that case, you know, we can capture on e4. And here the main line that I learned when I was growing up was bishop to f5. I'll be honest, I cannot stand this move. Just like against the advance, how I can't stand bishop f5, I personally don't like this either. Here's the main line. Knight g3, bishop back, pawn to h4. Well, we don't want to get our bishop trapped, so let's play h6. You play knight f3. All right, let's play knight d7. h5, kicking our bishop back. Bishop d3, we take it. We continue with e6, developing our knight. Bishop e7. And then we play from a position like this. And the main idea from the black side is, look, we're trying to get into an endgame where maybe this pawn on h5 can become a big target. I mean, it is very advanced. It is giving white space, but if we trade down that pawn on h5, you know, could be more of an annoyance for the white side than a good thing. And on top of that, black's looking towards e5 and c5 breaks at some point. All that said, I just feel like white has much more development than we do. We only have 3 pieces developed right now. White, on the other hand, has 6. 6 to 3. White has more space, more development, and it's just hard for me to see how we're going to force trades here, how we're going to force an endgame. And I'll be honest, when I played the Caro-Kann in this kind of style in tournament chess growing up, I got absolutely blasted, and I didn't play the Caro-Kann for too long because of that, right? Now, since then, I found this move of knight f6, and this move has done a lot better for me. Knight f6, the engine likes this move, by the way. And if white captures, okay, let's take with the e-pawn so that we get easy development with our bishop. We can castle kingside now, bishop g4. This position feels a lot more well-rounded to me. Now, one downside is that white has a pawn majority on this side, 4 to 3, and we're 4 to 3 here, but we have double pawns. All that to say, I think this is a much more playable position for black. I mean, this is just about dead even. We're going to keep developing our pieces, and yeah, a solid game for black. I will be honest, it's pretty drawish, but the better endgame player here is going to win. And going back to d5, next up we have knight d2. Now, the 4th most popular move in this position is only played 4%. That's it. 4% of the time knight d2 is played. So, yeah, you're not going to see this move very much. By the way, if you do, it's basically the same thing as knight c3. I mean, we're going to just take on e4, and if you capture back, we play knight f6. We're back to where we were. Now, our final move is the move of f3 with the Fantasy Variation. You may have seen GothamChess as well as a lot of other big YouTube you know, chess channels make content on this. And that's this move of pawn to f3, right? f3 with the Fantasy Variation. Against this, e6. If you just want to play solid chess, you don't want any complications, e6, very solid move. Nothing wrong with e6 at all. If you want to put the pressure on white a little bit, what you can do is play the move of e5. This is one option that you have. If white ends up taking bishop c5 here, keep developing. Our idea now is, you know, if white takes, if white plays knight c3, we have queen b6. We're putting pressure on that knight. In this position, there's only one move for white that gives them a positive evaluation. Anything else, black has the edge here. The one move that white has is knight to a4. Okay, knight h3 here. Notice how we're threatening to take that knight. Knight h3, not very good. We take on h3. White's pawn structure is going to be in shambles. And if we see the move of, you know, knight e2 with the g knight, I mean, we throw on a check, queen e3. This game is over at move 7. And okay, let's say we do see the best move of knight a4. We throw on a check. Again, right, there's only one good move for white. If king d2, we win on the spot with queen to e3. That's it. That's a ball game. And if we do see the move of king to e2, we can play queen d4. You know, if white captures, which is the best move for them, we capture back. Very hard for white to play positions like this. I mean, even if we see e takes d5, we can capture on e5, capture on c6. White is up a pawn, but we have moves like bishop f5, castling queenside on the way. The engine gives full equality for the black side, you know, very close to it. And we're down a pawn. So we definitely have compensation here. This is a hard position for white to play. The knight's going to have a hard time developing. The bishop can't develop right now. The king is on e2. You have a knight on a4, and we don't know what the heck that's doing there. And yeah, I mean, even though the engine's giving equality or close to it, I would definitely give the practical advantage to black. I think this is a hard position to play as white. It depends, what your preference would be in a position like this. Let me know down below which side you'd rather be, but I'll say for myself, I'd rather play as black. Going back to f3, another thing you can do that I've recommended to a lot of my private students is taking on e4 and then playing the move of e5. Again, there's only one move here for white that gives them an advantage, and that's the move of knight to f3. But let's say white plays a move like d5 or even takes on e5. Guess what? Queen h4. Queen h4, if you play g3, we're snatching off the pawn. Thank you for the rook. King e2, not a good idea. We take with check. King d2, well, we check again. And if you bring the king back, okay, we can capture on e4. If queen e2, let's not trade there. We can play bishop f5, defend our queen. If you capture back, we have a very active light-scored bishop there attacking that weak c2 pawn. And let's say we see something like c3. Okay, knight d7, play a move like knight e7. Our knights are going to get active here. A move like knight g6 could definitely come into play at some point, putting pressure on that bishop, putting pressure on the pawn on e5. And yeah, I mean, black here really with a lot of nice ideas going forward. And going back, let's say we do see the move of knight f3. In this case, bishop g4. You might want to memorize this line against bishop c4. We're going to play knight d7, protecting e5, which is very important. And there's certain things that white can try. Playing a move like d takes e5 there just doesn't get the job done. Okay, we're going to take on f3. We're going to capture on e5, black with a clear edge, clear advantage. And if we do see the move of bishop captures on f7, we can take. And if you see knight g5, okay, this is a common tactical idea. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it does not because our queen is eyeing that knight. The idea here is that white's trying to give up a piece for a pawn, throw in a check, and then take our bishop. But in that case, we can take the knight right off, right? And the moment you take our queen, guess what? We take yours. If you castle a check, okay, let's block with the knight. Again, anytime you take our queen, we capture yours. We're now going to take on d4. We're up 3 points in material, and you can't even take back on d4. Unless you want to get your rook pinned. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick intro on the Caro-Kann Defense. The Caro-Kann Defense, very strong opening for black, and it's played at the Grandmaster level, right? We see very strong players going with it. And we also see beginners learning it very quickly. So I think it's really a good chess opening for black at all levels. And as an e4 player myself, I will tell you that the Caro-Kann Defense is very annoying. If you want to learn more about it, I have more in-depth theoretical videos down below, so you can check those out if you'd like to. On top of that, I wanted to mention, I just released an over 6-hour course on the Czech Pierce defense. And if you're interested in that, for this month, in September, I'm giving out a 30% off discount code as we just launched the course. If you want that 30% off, all you got to do, go down to the link below. You can go down in the description, the pinned comment, plug in the discount code CzechPierce2024, and you will receive 30% off on that course. Only good until the end of this month. See you on the next one. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters for the month of September in 2024. I appreciate y'all a ton. It's been great getting to know you guys. And for those of you that haven't thought about joining the Patreon, there's some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member. And yeah, I mean, if you guys do join, I'm excited to start talking to you guys over on the platform. On top of that, guys, here's the thing. Look, it's September. Okay, it's September. There's only so much time left to get that Czech Pierce Defense course. Click the link. Click the freaking link, plug in the discount code, get your 30% off, only good until the end of the month, and I'll see y'all on the next video. Let's get it.